Welcome, brothers. Welcome, sisters. We're back with our program today on Studio Galaxy 473. Remember, the number to call is 536 2558. Give us a call, participate in the program. What we do on this program is we provoke discussion. We don't have answers. We're not satisfied with what is going on. We believe that we could solve our problems, and we provoke discussion. We want the farmers to speak. We want all the stakeholders to involve. And the topic today is creating employment and productivity in agriculture. Creating employment and productivity in agriculture. We want people to discuss the topic. You could take issue with us, no problem. You could disagree with us, no problem. You could call us and tell us we're wasting time, no problem.
You could agree with us.
And you could agree with us too. So Joshua said we could agree with us. And we have with us our brother Joshua. And who better to speak about agriculture than Joshua? My brother, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning to everybody at home and diaspora worldwide. It's another lovely day in Grenada, blue skies, so everything is possible. We've had the budget recently, and they talk about a deficit budget. Now, farmers may not know what that means, and I don't fully know what that means, but I believe from what I've been hearing is that there's a shortage of about is it 300 million or something like that?
I had 825 million. That's what they borrowed.
So it's about 300 million. So they don't have the money. They don't have the money for that 300 million that they need. And what they're saying is they're going to borrow it from Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and other places. So they're not worried. They're also saying that they have reserves. But a lot of people are concerned about what they call the deficit budget. So farmers, essentially, what they're saying is that they have to spend $1,000, but they only have $700, but they believe they'll get the other $300, so everything will be okay, and that's what they want us to know. And those in the know, economists and big business people, etc., are saying yes, it's okay to have a deficit budget. But what we are concerned about today is I think you've heard us say it before. While the grass is growing, the horse is starving. And we want to talk about employment in the rural community, because employment among youth tends to be high. Sometimes it's as high as 30 or 40%. Unemployment among women tends to be high. Again, it tends to be higher than the national average. So if the national average for unemployment, say it might be 25%, amongst women, it tends to be higher. Amongst youth, it tends to be higher. And quite often, you'd expect the budget to address these things. Now, what we want to talk about in agriculture, on the agriculture program today, is how can we help? It's okay saying unemployment high, this is high, that is high, youth unemployment is high, but what is this? What is the solutions? What can we do every day without being a hero? How could we create just one job? Just one job. So imagine if we have 6,000 farmers. I think the Cocoa Association and Nutmeg say they have 6,000 farmers. So if each one of those farmers can create one job, just one, you have 6,000 people in employment just by your own self-help. You didn't have to create magic to do that. So I want to look at how do we increase productivity and create employment in agriculture? Because one of the things that over the years, people have taken issue with. They've gotten a big piece of wood and they bang in the farmer on his head about productivity. Like the farmers can't produce. We need to increase productivity. And when you hear the political elite talk and the so-called economists, they all say that farmers can't produce and are not producing enough. And I hear it over and over. If we want a container of dashing to go to Miami, we can't do it because productivity is so low. So, yes, so we've identified the problem. What we have to do is talk about how do we solve the problem, because if we put our heads together and we use our brain, everybody all over the world, God gave that gift, that brain, we could solve all problems. But we have gotten into a situation, a lot of us, not everybody, whereby we're waiting for somebody to think for us. We have been brought up to don't think in terms of our society. Just do what you're told. That was the old colonial system. We don't want them to think because if they start thinking, they're going to overthrow us. So we just want them to do what we tell them to do. But we've been independent. No country is really independent. We've been interdependent for about 50 years, so we've been carrying our own debt on our own shoulders for 50 years. I don't consider that really independent, but we've been responsible for finding solution to our problems. And the truth is, we have not done that very well. So I want to zero in this morning in terms of some concrete solutions. And I want people to also come up with concrete solutions. As Mr. Pierce said, I want critical analysis as well because we have the solutions for our problems. Now, I didn't really think that the budget really looked at employment generation or employment creation. And to be quite honest, I was disappointed because I think we have lots of areas where we could generate employment. And the area that I've been passionate about is agriculture and the rural community. And probably we need to have a rural development agency that looks at rejuvenating the rural communities because the rural communities are declining. Agriculture production is declining, and that's for a number of reasons, not just farmers. I mean, we've had natural disasters, we've had burial, we've had flash flooding, etc. All of those things impact on us. We've had the irregular weather patterns. So I don't want us to jump on the farmers this morning and just keep bashing them with a piece of wood on the head and blaming them for everything. Because when it comes to solutions, we all in this together. We all have a part to play in terms of the solution. But I was disappointed that more attention wasn't paid to the rural community and generating employment. We talk all the time about everything is in the south. The hotels are in the south, Granan's Beach is in the south, the jobs are in the south, construction are in the south. Well, if we know all of that and we know the problems that everybody from the rural community start drifting to the south, we know the problem it causes. There is going to be almost like a ghetto being created around St. George's because there's going to be little to no housing for people. People are going to be putting up their shacks. Um, mm,
You have a call on the line and caller welcome. Yes, brother.
good morning. We're
Great.
doing good. We're doing good. Mm.
Okay. Brother Samuel Joseph, a hero of no mean quality. How do we get over it? That eventually that's the challenge. So we have to encourage the farmers to get the sense. But leaders don't think to, so you can't depend on them. could only happen if the leader is thinking. And if
But
they have the same objective like
But
you.
that's what I'm saying. They're not thinking, and so that is the problem here. So we calling on the farmers to do things,
Yeah.
but we're not giving the farmer the support. And that's why I said that we are slaves. They're using us as slaves, partition the country and use us as slaves to make
We
their
letting
money.
ourselves be used as slaves.
Right, you see? Because they have us in a corner, politically,
Yeah.
to the political science, I call Mamagai and Bamboos, and they have us wanting everything that we need. We have to get it from them. So we need
Yeah.
the clothes, we need the tool, we need the books, we need everything,
Yeah.
and we need the seed. And that's it. So we're going nowhere. We don't understand it because we get the money to go and buy the sardine and come.
We're going nowhere fast.
We're going nowhere. That's what it is.
Yes,
So we have
yeah.
we have to break away from that. That's where you all factor there. So we must break away from it if we need to go. Now I've been saying this for quite some time. If the economy have to move, you must start with the base. The base is the road.
Perhaps we take.
Infrastructure.
Perhaps we need the farmer to move. And
Well,
maybe
you
the
could get-
farmer have to stop think about everybody else, mind his business, get selfish and move.
Yeah, but you see, there's something you can do. You see, let's look at the Japanese. The Japanese influence people to buy their vehicles by just putting a bump on the car. They give you the same engine, the same length, the same width, and they stimulate your mind by putting 2 or 3 more bumps. Wow! And it's the same engine, the same amount of metal, but they just put a ridge on it, and that captures your mind. Now, what you have to do with the farmers, you have to give them the access, right? So you give them the road, you give them the water, you give them the electricity. That's going to spur the interest to move into the field.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes,
So you
good,
have to
yeah.
challenge the farmer.
Yeah.
And if you do that to the farmer will take. I have done that. I am continuing to do that, and that's the result I'm getting. I'm bringing in these large-scale farmers when I do these things personally with my money and say, oh, the farmer's lazy and the young men. No, they're not lazy. They want you to stimulate their mind. So I've been saying this to the government. Look,
Yeah.
give the farmer the road, the water, the electricity, and let them build their residence on the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, scholar.
If you want production, let them do that.
Yeah.
But you must give them the infrastructure.
Yeah.
You put value to the land. So the mountain land has the same value of the land as the salted area. So your tax threshold is built. So that land that you're not paying tax in the mountain, because you put the amenities there, then you're attracting the same taxes as the land and the lowland, commercial land. So you commercialize the agricultural sector with these things. And then you do the same business they're doing on the main road, you do it in the same in the higher belt. You bring the restaurant in the higher belt. You bring the guest house in the higher belt. So why don't you have what you call a guest house between a nutmeg field? Why don't you have a guest house between a cocoa field? That is an attraction to the guest house because tourists like that.
Okay.
And so we have to try these factors, these things, to get people back into the sector. But
Yes, scholar. Yes, thank you. That's why we're provoking this discussion. Because some people say you give the farmer and say the farmer should take it. and that is where and the farmer must understand that you can't wait for people to come to give you. They won't give you. They have other priorities. The priorities of the government is different from that of the farmers.
Sure.
So that's why I believe we motivate the farmer to lobby the government, lobby everybody, lobby the government for yourself to get what you want.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yes. Thank you,
So
Joshua.
I was before the caller made his contribution, and I want to thank him for his contribution because
Great contribution.
it's a voice that I recognize that's
Great
making a regular contribution, and I very much appreciate it. The point I was trying to make is that everything goes towards the south in terms of employment, housing, hotels, etc., jobs. And the simple point I'm making is that people drift to the south because of those things. They have employment. We have the hotels building, so we know why they're drifting to the south. They want jobs.
They want money.
They want money.
Not jobs. They want money.
Yeah, they want money.
We have to stop talking about jobs. People want money.
They want
Some people have jobs they're not working.
Yes.
And then you have bad managers. One of the challenge we have in the Caribbean is our middle managers are poor quality.
Yes.
So people say they want job, they want money.
They want money. Yeah.
And if we could start to convince Grenadians that you could make money from your land, that might change your attitude.
Yeah, that is true.
We have the most land owners in the Caribbean. We're not the Bajans, we're not the Jamaicans. We have land. You have people in Paracrite here with over 50 acres of land. They're going to look for a job. What job?
Yeah.
We have to encourage our people to make money from the land you have. When you speak to the politician, you speak about making money from the land. It's not your responsibility to bother about creating job for union to fight. No. You want to make money. And if you get a chance, when you make the money and you go in the Pacific and spend it and you come back, you want to make money from your land.
Yeah. Okay, so the simple point I was trying to make is this. We know why people are drifting to the south. So why don't we recreate what's happening in the south in the rural communities? Why don't we get the secondary processing units going in the south? Why don't we do something in terms of Sautez? Why don't we put the port in Sautez so that is the link between Carriacou and Sautez, generating employment? When I go to Sautez, I love going to Sautez because, there's not many people there and it's always quiet, peaceful. And I lived in Sautez along the beach at one time, so I love Sautez. But Sautez needs more people. It needs more activity. It needs more business.
People even going to South. How do we make sure you're in Sautez? We have to start to get in the people's head because Grenada, you see, we have electricity, telephone, water, and internet. We're second to none in the Caribbean. We're comparable with the best, and we're better than most.
Yeah,
people going for jobs. First thing you have to ask yourself, how do I make money? Would a job make me make money? Because as I said, one of the cries in Grenada is people are unproductive. They're not working. They get a job in town, they reach it late. I remember I had to tell one worker, say, what is the problem with you? She from Gov, she working in St. George's. She tell me about boss, I say, get a man in town. Live in town. If your problem is the boss, live in St. George's.
Yeah.
You pick up, she says she have a man in Gov, I say, leave him. Get a man in town. We have to face this reality, Punctuality in Grenada is a joke. Lateness is a joke.
Yeah.
Unproductivity is a joke. Maurice Bishop used to say toiletism, clockwatchism. When Maurice Bishop started to panic with the low productivity, he started to bother with ism, communism like a lot of ism. The clockwatchism, he says, since 3 o'clock, you're watching the clock. So they want jobs. So we have to create a fire in our people to want money. That's why people leave, some children, parents, rich, they go walking in talk for $1,500. How much money you pay in the bus to go to St. George's? Joshua?
Yeah.
That makes sense?
No, I think, Mr. Pierre, sometimes listening to you, you tickle my funny bones, and I can't but kind of listen and smile, because those things there's a point to them. I'm not sure if I always agree, but
How you agree that?
but there's a point to it.
Even sometimes me don't agree with Francis Pitt.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is that we know why the people are drifting to the south. So why can't we recreate that environment in the rural community?
But we had a policy a long time ago in countrifying the tongue and tongueifying the country.
Okay.
That didn't work. They
Okay.
bring electricity all over Grenada. We have the best network of roads in the Caribbean. I doesn't speak about road at all. You know? Farmers tell me road bad. I said, am I going anywhere with my vehicle?
Yeah.
You have four-wheel drive. Government give you concession to buy a four-wheel drive vehicle. They tell me about bush scratching the vehicle. I say, buy a tractor.
Yeah.
You buy wrong vehicle. If I am in government, I would not give people concession to buy a vehicle, $125,000, and you don't want bush scratch it.
Yeah.
That don't make no sense.
Yeah.
You get an army type of vehicle, you could go in the jungle with.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, and I want to be serious about that because I think it's very
So you
important.
think I'm joking then?
I think
I'm just laughing.
No. I think at times even Francis Pierre don't believe what Francis Pierre is saying.
Well, I just tell you.
Yeah, but what's coming into my heart and my mind is the devastation that I experience in terms of my community. I come from that kind of little Dunfermline area, just on top of the old airport. And I saw the old airport being taken away from that area. And I saw how that area went into stagnation, how it's kind of dilapidated and what happened. And I look at the south of the island and the airport area, and you can't get enough land around there because people want to live close, hotels want to be there. So the planners have to do better. And what I'm saying, and this for me is something that is not no rocket science. We need to get that that port in Sautez, and we need to create that link with Carriacou because that will generate economic activity and that will generate jobs as well, and that will give a boost to Sautez. And I think if we could have the vision, we don't need a big vision as Winty. Winty say we're building a bridge from probably Sautez to Carriacou. We're not ready for the bridge
It's not
yet.
impossible,
No, it's very possible.
but it's uneconomic.
Yeah, it's very possible. If we had maybe 200,000 living in Carriacou,
Carriacou under 10,000 people. Right now, you may have about 5,000 people in Carriacou.
yeah, 3,000 if we're lucky.
And they're fighting to build 200 houses after they get 118 million.
Yeah, so
What we need to do is to create fire in the young people's ambition. You come out from school, you living in Paraclete or Guava, etc. You go in St. George's and do security.
Yeah.
And you have access to land.
yeah, so the point
This
is
thing is a joke.
the point is
The woman must horn you up here.
yeah we
All
need,
night you there doing security in town. Holiday, Christmas, you guarding some building in St. George's. You have a nice fluffy woman here. And you have land
Yeah.
to work. What are you going town for?
yeah.
Go in beekeeping.
And that's the problem probably in these areas because there's nobody to procreate with if all the men are down in St. George's.
They're in St. George, when they come back, they're tired. They don't make no sense.
Yeah, but we need to have better planning, for the rural area. We're not just the south of the island. And the south of the island, when you're there, you look at it, and if you go contrast it with Sautez, you wonder what's going on. I mean, we don't have to...
How do we create this employment?
Yeah.
Because you see, it boils down to how do we create this employment?
Yeah.
How do we create the environment? How do we create the attitude? How do we change the mentality?
Yeah.
of the stakeholder,
Yeah.
whether it's the farmer or the policymaker or government.
Yeah.
How do we do it?
These are good questions. So I'm going to leave the background that I was trying to create and deal with that direct. And I'm going to stay in Sates. Because in Sates, if you know Sates a little, you will know Mr. Monroe. Mr. Monroe has a big poultry farm in Sates, not too far from the bus terminal. So how do you create the environment? Right. Let me just use the poultry sector. I know I talk about poultry a lot. So we now have in Grenada 2 modern state-of-the-art processing centers. They are comparable to any processing center in the world. So what the plan was in terms of these processing centers was that they would contract the smaller farmers to provide the birds for them. Now, how do we create the employment? So once you have the right enabling environment, so for example, the processing centers are all there, private money has gone into it, they've not been given any grant or anything to build those centers. So now you have to stimulate the small farmers who can produce about 3,000, 5,000 birds. Mr. Monroe Farm is there in Sates. It can produce about 6,000 birds. It's just there sitting, grass is growing around it, doing nothing. You have to incentivize the farmers like that. There's other farmers, not as big as Mr. Monroe, around Sates. So what you do now is you create the environment where they can get a contract with the processors. You create the environment where they can get the loans that they need to build up their farms and get the contracts going. So a farm like Mr. Monroe, for example, if it's fully operational, it will be probably employing about 20 persons. So the employment is there, the money will start to circulate in terms of Sates, especially around the bus terminal area. People tend to be paid weekly in terms of monies when you work in agriculture. And the best way in the world that they say to pay workers is weekly. That's why the Americans still pay people weekly or fortnightly. The most cost-effective way to pay workers is monthly because you only have to do your books once a month. But that way is not effective for workers or motivating workers or stimulating workers. The best way they've found for stimulating workers is weekly. Before you spend your money, you get more. So if you imagine that we have like 100 farms like Mr. Monroe scattered around the island because everybody has to eat, straight away, you're creating 2,000 jobs. And you're creating food security and probably eventually you're working towards food sovereignty. Now, that is just the poultry. What I had hoped to see in the budget was a stimulus for the poultry industry.
The budget failed.
Well,
the budget was 3 months late, and they did not spend time thinking. They're grossly incompetent. That's why we have to zero in on the farm
yes.
and other stakeholders and hope the policymakers catch on, or they are pressured to catch on.
Yeah. So that area, the whole poultry area as a whole, has the potential to generate 3,000 jobs when I did the check and analysis. And the poultry area is not concentrated in Sates. When I looked at the demographic of farmers, they're all over the island, from St. George's to Sates. They're all over the island. And so it should be, because yes, we have the concentration of people in the town of St. George's. We have concentration of people in the town of St. Andrews, Grenville. But the surrounding areas is rural. You go up outside of St. George's, and in little to no time you see in the rural area. You see Wester Hall Estate down there and several other estates. So, the concentration of the town, of the
So the
businesses.
development of the poultry industry is one that could provide food and employment, and the management of the poultry industry have to be optimal.
Yes.
And the infrastructure, everything is well poised,
Yes.
well placed for the poultry industry to take off.
Yes.
It's only management problem now.
Yeah, and the incentive, because you got to get them off the ground. As the caller had said this morning when he called and said, yes, you got to stimulate these people. You got to look at the electricity,
The poultry people spend about how much million, you say?
Yeah, 60 million of new investment.
They spend 60 million. They are properly motivated.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they have the management is the next thing. Mm-hmm. But if you spend 60 million in your economy, you're supposed to be strong enough to lobby this weak government and them.
Yeah,
this Minister of Agriculture, they done good.
Yeah,
and if I come and spend 60 million in your economy, you have to be able to lobby them.
Yeah, and I think they're lobbying, but businessmen are diplomats. So they will be lobbying quietly.
What other areas we could increase employment and at the same time raise reproductivity?
Yeah, well, I actually wrote something down, Mr. Pierre, this morning when I was thinking about that. So what I had was poultry. We could probably get about 3,000 jobs from poultry, and that includes the builders, the electrician, the drivers.
But permanent jobs, it might be about 1,000.
A bit more. A bit more.
1,500.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I thought, the flowers.
Flowers industry.
The flowers.
So we have to...
Because I have a family member who does flowers, and she can't do enough, and she just do the funerals, really.
And we have a lot of funerals.
Yeah. And she basically, need 2 full-time people, and she's just small in terms
So we need Grenadians, particularly young people coming out in school. There are market for flowers. There is money in flowers.
Yeah, there's money in flowers. Big money.
If I have my way, I don't bother wasting time with them people teaching agriculture in school, I said that already. I tell you, I have some little children in school. I tell them, don't bother with agriculture in school. If you want to make money in agriculture, go and look for some farmers that are doing well and watch and start from there.
Yeah,
but the flowers industry is ripe for the taking.
Yes.
There is a local market for flowers.
Yeah.
Already people dying regular. Some of the environmentalists are support Trump on that, a joke. These environmentalists they have in grade a pure joke. If you give them a chance, they have 2 cars. They're using aerosol spray. Their hair come out in China and Brazil. Their fingernail long, they import it. They tell me about environment. But you could challenge the environmental people to market natural flowers against artificial flowers. There is a market in Grenada for flowers. The government could budget $2,000, the Ministry of Agriculture, not the government, the Ministry of Agriculture, budget $2,000 every year and encourage the male workers in the Ministry of Agriculture to give female workers flowers. That is within the department. You could give them by random if they don't have anybody, because some female boss, they don't joke, nobody might give them flowers. So give them by random and encourage them to walk around with the flowers with pride. Don't put it in black plastic. And try that for about 5 years. 2,000 for 5. The last time I checked, they're about 10,000. 5 2 is 10. Yes. So if the government, that is, you call that venture capital, risk capital in marketing.
Yeah.
So for 5 years, agriculture have a habit exchanging flowers. The other ministries might follow too. When women get nice like a bouquet and they're walking around and it's not in a black plastic, and then man feel happy.
Yeah.
You encouraging your people to accept flowers as gift.
Yeah.
That is another market.
Yeah.
The hotels want fresh flowers.
Yeah.
And because of the amount of flights that we have, if Chum they put 25% tariff on us, then you have a market for flowers in the hotel.
Yeah.
You could send flowers in New York, in London, in Frankfurt. From Grenada.
Yeah.
Nice Grenadian rose.
Yeah.
Nice Grenadian baligier.
And we have the infrastructure, Mr. Pierre.
I mean, we have everything. We just have bad mind.
The flights come in daily. With
That is if Chum don't drop it 25% tariff.
Yeah, and so we can kind of have a flight, leave in Grenada in the morning, 10 o'clock, and it could be in Amsterdam, by 4 o'clock.
Nice fresh flowers.
Yeah. So,
and you see all Grenada women walking around with a nice rose. Yeah. And sometimes when you hand your wife, you buy nice little flowers and chocolate and honey and bring it back.
Oh, God.
When you intend to honor, you don't want to honor, but, because you have to be realistic. A man's supposed to be romantic when his spouse may suspect that he might be guilty of a charge that he's trying to do. He ain't doing it, trying to do it.
But, Mr. Pierre, listening to you talk while I collect my thoughts together, something came to mind. What we are doing is giving potential solution that exists.
We're provoking discussion.
That exists right in front of our eyes. These are not things we need to get people from, the World Bank or the IMF.
By the time the World Bank finishes you, they build one depot, the 40 million, and it's just a white elephant.
No, but this is things that we can do ourselves.
Right here, and it's not expensive.
Yeah, it's not costly, and it generates income. So let me summarize just to give you a point, because I know the poultry relatively well, the industry. I've worked with the industry. So if we manage to keep that 30 million that we send out to America, Brazil, and England every year, and we circulate,
we have more foreign exchange in the country.
Yeah, we'll have over 200 million circulating in the rural economy. We'll have created 3,000 jobs in the rural economy. We will have young people, especially young men, youth unemployment, being reduced by at least 5%. The potential is so great, but it cannot be done just by the investors who have invested in...
The investors have invested 60 million in the economy.
Yeah.
The government is responsible for the enabling environment.
That's right.
But if the government is bad-minded, then the public have to lobby the government.
Yeah. So
simple.
So you got it. The government role was to create the enabling environment. Now, I have been fortunate to be able to have access to government documents and agreements, etc. The agreement with Caribbean Agro, or ADM as people would say, government role was to create the enabling environment.
Well, they have to lobby the government. The government wouldn't act. The government don't interested.
Yeah.
And that the worst government ever in Grenada where agriculture is concerned. It's the worst.
Remember agriculture.
There's no hope with these people. I don't think they could recover unless the farmer lobbies them.
Mr. Pierre, your program is in a little while. This is the agriculture program. I see you're ready to go. Yeah, so over 50 years, the government never created the enabling environment. And that's all the government that's been in power over 50 years.
We go with the next 50 years?
No, we want around 50 years ago doing the podcast. We are now. And we encouraging and we raising awareness so that people know what's holding us back. Yes, the 60 million has been invested, but now we need the enabling environment, as you say. And the first thing that government has to do is to create the incentives for the small farmers, because it's the small farmers we want to enable in the rural community, because by enabling them and giving them help with their farm, one farm alone will take on about 5 people, because not only meat are they producing, we also need eggs. We need liquid eggs. The hotel need liquid eggs, and that's not a one-man show. That has to be like a collective that you put together. You get like 100 farmers, all of them pushing the egg to one place and it's liquefied and the hotel have it. They don't have to bring it in from the United States. The cost for the machinery, I've costed it already. It's about 200,000 US in terms of that. The return is enormous.
So how do we? Well, that we have poultry and we have flowers.
Yeah.
What other areas we could zero in on?
Yeah, without a cost. Livestock. Livestock has so much potential in it. We have all this steak being imported, ton loads of steak coming in from Brazil, coming in from the US. Now, a lot of people say, oh, your cows are from Jamaica and Grenada, the steak is too hard, they're in the sun too long. We know how to solve that problem.
We doesn't bother with steak. We drop some fire on it and some pepper and some seasoning. And when it finish, if it half cooked, we eat it still and we say, cook it better next time.
Yeah. So I've spoken to the
small ruminant.
Yeah, I've spoken to the chief vet several times, and he knows how to do it. I've spoken to BJ on this program, and when you listen to BJ telling you how the different situation that they use in Jamaica to make sure they get the maximum amount of meat from their
So
cows.
we have to encourage the farmers in Grenada. You see, the farmers have the land.
Yeah.
And if a farmer have 5 acres of land and you fence the land,
Yes.
you can grow small ruminants on it, sheep and goat. You can grow on it. You don't have to, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
You could plant glory cedar, trichantera, lucinia, other crop 4 feet apart. You could fence it with wire if you have money. If you don't have money and you have time, you could use bamboo. You could collect all the galvanized, they melt and looking for them. You could use all galvanized. If you get a fridge dough, instead of sending it into the garbage people, you could use it to, over a period of time, over 2, 3, 4 years. You will shock to see how you able to fence your plot of land and it do not cost you much except time. And poor people have time. That is why they poor. You ever see a poor man that what time?
Yeah.
Poor people have time.
Yeah.
That is why you're poor.
Yeah.
So what we are saying, we have land, we have electricity, we have water, we have the internet. Our roads are good. Enough, good enough for farming.
Yeah. So Mr. Pierre, the livestock, I think sometimes people don't realize how easy it is. You just need maybe 1 acre or 2 acres, and you fence it, and then you how do you do it when you kind of
sectionize it?
You sectionize it.
Different section.
Yeah, you sectionize it so you give the grass time
and
to
then
grow.
all the waste food you have, the corn straw that going, when you eat the carrot, the cucumber, the cabbage, the fig skin, the ripe fig skin, instead of putting it in the garbage and causing problem, you give it back to the land.
Yeah.
The bread, you could go to the bread people, the people who make bread. All the old stale bread, sheep ruminant eating it.
Yeah.
So one time the waste, and you make fertilizer with the sheep manure, etc.
Yeah.
So you fence on 1 acre land. You don't have to have much sheep.
Yeah.
You may have 12.
Yeah, you could start with 1 acre and you sectionalize it.
1 acre land you have. 1 acre. We have small farmers in Grenada.
Yeah.
The majority of farmers are small farmers.
Yeah, so you put it in sections. But let's be realistic. Sorry, I just touched my mic.
Your mic, We're going to touch it.
So,
and you could give us a call, Nothing wrong with that. What we do, we provoke discussion.
Yeah. So,
and we want the discussion take place in the rum shop, on the block. You don't have to have scientists. You don't have to be a doctor, mathematician.
Yeah.
You could have discussion with your wife and your children.
Yeah.
Instead of quarreling whole day. How we going to make money in the land we have?
Yeah, absolutely.
You Sunday in school, cussing everybody, playing done.
Yeah.
How are we going to make money with the land that we have?
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't find that better?
Yeah, I think that's better. So the land will need a shed, because remember, we can't do this.
Bamboo.
The same thing that
Bamboo wood.
yeah,
All this old plastic drum on them,
Yeah.
cut them and split them and bury wrong with the land.
yeah. So,
Hit them a little and straighten them.
Yeah.
The tar drum that they have all on the airport,
Yeah.
go and take them, cut them in two. Jamaica doing it already.
yeah. So we have to create the infrastructure. So we need a shed with the watering system where we don't have to feed the cows or the animals. They
We're
just go,
afraid to talk about cow because small farmers with a small portion of land, small ruminants might be the most aggressively marketable one.
Yeah.
But yes, you could have cows too.
yeah. What I'm saying, we need the nipple system where they just go and they get their drink when they want it by
They could
themselves.
use bamboo and they could use plastic.
Yeah.
Little tech. Agriculture could show them how to use the automatic waterers with waste material.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to say we need to ensure that we create the enabling environment if we are saying this is how we want to go. And there's nothing stopping us really from doing that. If a man decides that he wants to kind of concentrate on small ruminant, there's nothing.
Poor education. Poor education.
Yeah.
Everybody leaves school looking for a job.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to make a job. And people must recognize Grenada have the most land owners in the Caribbean freehold. You're not in Barbados where sometimes you can keep a dog on your platter.
But sometimes, Mr. Pierre, they make joke about us in the Caribbean, when people go and study in China or India, they say, the Caribbean people come and study the MBA, and soon as they go back to their country, they go to the government to get a job.
They're badly trained, badly motivated.
Yeah, they say,
They don't want to make money. They're lazy.
and they say, whereas the Indian, when he finishes his MBA, he's not looking for a job from government. He's creating 3, 4, 5 businesses, and within 3 to 5 years, he's living.
If an
the
Indian
good-
selling sweets that are nice, sometimes before people realize they turn a millionaire.
Yeah.
India have a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we as a people could do better.
Yeah, and we need our best people to be coming out in the private sector because the government has the most skilled workers, educated workers that you could find technically,
Of course, they're educated. That's why they work with government.
yeah, and we need them in the private sectors doing their own thing as well, rather than just kind of government.
So we spoke about poultry, we spoke about flowers, and we spoke about livestock, small ruminant.
Yeah.
And as we say, we're just provoking discussion.
Yeah, but the big one, Mr. Pierre.
Which one is?
The big one is cocoa and nutmeg. Whether we like it or not, I know we say cocoa is romantic, nutmeg, even they say even Jamaica is ahead of us in production in terms of nutmeg now. At one point, we were second in the
We were
world.
second in the world, but
Yeah.
we have a very unproductive association. The association in Grenada is unproductive.
Yeah.
I've been saying for years they think they are supposed to be a agent for the NDC government or some government.
NNP.
So, no, the Nutmeg Association and the Cocoa Association, traditionally and historically, they are aligned to GNP and NDC.
Okay. Anyway.
And they're unproductive.
Yeah, so the point the point I want to make is that if we have 6,000 farmers, as they keep throwing in my face, we have 6,000 farmers, we could always appoint the senator for ourselves because nobody could beat us when it comes to voting. We just bring all the cocoa and nutmeg farmers and they support our candidate. End of story. Job done. Now, if you have 6,000 farmers in cocoa and nutmeg, most of the farmers, the landowners, would be aging now. Just employ just one person to trim, maintain the fields, on a weekly basis. That's 6,000 jobs. We don't have to kind of go to Russia or go to America to work out that math. That is so simple.
Obviously, on the question of cocoa, I think is people have to understand that chocolate is not going to go away.
Okay.
We have more people turning millionaires in the world, and as people turn millionaires, they want more chocolate.
They want more chocolate. Chocolate drink,
Yeah.
chocolate.
And if we push the flowers industry in Grenada, and we start to push it as a for the gift purposes, then we could also but we time flies. So let us just point out a few areas we believe the honey production is a very profitable area where people could enter. Sea moss farming is another area that we must discuss.
Tell us how much jobs you think when you mention them that they can create. Sea moss.
Sometimes I say train. So I say government must train 50 people in every area in CMAS. And when you're training, don't tell me nothing about age. Who interested?
Yeah.
And I will train a lot of policemen.
Yeah.
You see policemen and security?
Yeah.
This is the people are targeting in CMAS and honey.
Yeah.
And I'm telling them why. If you go in vegetable production, you go lose. No, you can't make it. Because sometimes they send you in Carrico as soon as they know your vegetable looking good. They start to bring news on you. So I'm encouraging policemen to go into CMAS production and to get involved in honey production.
Yeah.
Crab farming.
I think that area could create at least 400 jobs.
We're exporting maybe 300 to 500 crab in Trinidad if we get it. And that market has been there as long as Lionel Canal. So we have government to come in. That is government role.
Yeah.
Get some export. Deal with some of the individuals who are doing crab hunting crab. What do you call it? Holding crab?
Yeah.
What is the name for crab farming?
I don't know.
Well, they don't hold in crab. They're going to thief the crab. But nobody crab. Holders of crab. Now we want to train them to farming crabs.
Yeah.
So that's an area. Now, you have Manico season. And Manico season is closed. Have we ever thought about farming Manico? Manico grow fast, you know?
Yeah.
How do we farm Manico? Could we start to... I always believe that we must force government to have venture capital. You hear me, brother?
Yeah.
Round up.
I was
Come
just...
to the end.
I was just saying that we have 2 minutes to go, so I want to do a quick roundup. The point that we were making this morning is that we can create employment right in front of our very own eyes if we just kind of believe in ourselves and just put a place like crabs. You know, it's mentioned, but all that's needed, it's a little investment. You need an aggregator, so you have 200 guys catching crab. They bring it to the aggregator, it's processed, and then it's shipped. We have the vessels going from Grenville to Trinidad every week. So we can do it. We just need the will, and then we need the action to follow the will. So let's get on and do it. We're nearly there with the poultry industry, and we did it ourselves, and we can do the rest ourselves.
And that's what happens when you're in Studio Galaxy and you meet the Galaxy Equalizers.
Yes.
Them try to kill we and break way. Them no realize it's the same fight that build waves. I don't need friends